Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back this week for another episode of Joe on Joe Illustrated. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, last week, we finished up Action Force. There is one more Action Force annual. I don't own it. And so I got to get my hands on it. And so we will eventually come back for that. And certainly there's a bunch of Action Force content that's out there that we need to revisit, and I will revisit one day. But we're going to take a little diversion here this week for Joe and Joe Illustrated to something different. We're going to talk about the Marvel books that Marvel put out, the Mighty Marvel storybooks. So we're de-aging our target audience a little bit this week, but they're fun, they're neat, they're small, they're compact. And I think they're stories that not a lot of you have really read or experienced before. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Again, I'm Joe Slepsky. I'm your host. And this is the podcast where I've talked about every episode of G.I. Joe, the Real American Hero cartoon. We've done DIC. We've done Extreme. And we've also covered the comic book. Covered all the Larry Hama Marvel issues. And we worked our way through Action Force. And who knows what'll be next. But this is what is this week. We're talking Spy Eye. If you want to talk about G.I. Joe, you can reach out to me on social media at Joe on Joe Pod. That is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Don't be afraid. Reach out, say hello. We have regular segments called You on Joe, which means you're the guest of the show. And we talk to you about your favorite part of G.I. Joe. In fact, a couple weeks ago, we did Flash, Anthony Gambello, and he's a major player in this week's story. So it's going to be exciting there. We didn't talk about Flash on the You on Joe, which was totally our oversight. He's a main character in this, which finally gives Flash some action. One of the most overlooked characters of all Joe time. You can also check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Joe on Joe, and see what's going on over there. That helps keep the show afloat. We're also supported, of course, by our wonderful sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast. In the beginning of time, the smallest organism gained sentience and thought to itself, I really need a good meal. Then, a bunch of other stuff happened, and finally the Lumiere brothers started showing movies in France. This was all the inspiration that fellow broadcasters Brad, Keith, and Ben needed to combine these two primal needs into the Movies and a Meal podcast. The Movies and a Meal is one of the most casual and relaxing film talk podcasts you could ever listen to. These three friends enjoy a good meal together while talking all about the movies. And not just reviews, they do favorite lists, comparison discussions, genre talks, anything and everything that you can think of. They've even broken their solemn promise inherent in the name and branched out into TV talk. So I love the variety of films they bring to the table. They cover new releases, classics, cult films, often in one episode. It's really a delight to listen to, and it has something for every movie fan out there to enjoy. So if you're looking to grow your podcast library, if you eat meals, and if you've ever seen a movie, then you should give Ben, Keith, and Brad a listen and subscribe to the Movies and a Meal podcast. They've been a great sponsor to this show. I love the Movies and a Meal podcast, and I'd like all of you to love them too. It's Oscar season, so you need to check out their show. I saw some movies this weekend. Of course, I think we talked last week about Madam Web. Less said the better there. But what did we see? We saw Mist Beekeeper, and we saw, that's how memorable it was. Argyle. Saw Argyle this weekend. I was nonplussed. Like, I was ready to be plussed, and I was nonplussed. I like those Kingsman movies. It's Matthew Vaughn. I enjoy his work. It was underwhelming. So that's less said about that, I think, the better. But yeah, I saw Argyle and wasn't swept away. You know, it just made me want to watch Romancing the Stone. Anyway, we're not here to talk about movies. We're here to talk about G.I. Joe. And you all know that G.I. Joe was everywhere in the 80s. G.I. Joe did everything. G.I. Joe did coloring books. G.I. Joe obviously did comic books. There were large format large format reprints. There were reprints of the comic books in different formats. And these are original stories that were published in 1983 that were all new stories themselves with new artwork. They're not exactly comic books. They are storybooks. more kids. They're more kid friendly, right? So they're not word ballooned like comic book, but there's dialogue there. They're nice stuff you could read with a little kid because there's a lot of big text, but then some really nice imagery in it. And today we're talking about The Spy Eye, which if you want to read along, if you don't have this, because not a lot of people do. I certainly got this in arrears. I got this on eBay a few years ago, and I got to say, I have some really, really clean copies. So I'm very happy about that. But go to our friend Carson Metaxas's website, 3djoes.com, and what's it under? It's just under /The Spy Eye. But just search it for Spy Eye, and it shows up on 3D Joe's, and he's got full-on PDF files for this. So you can absolutely read along. If you don't have a copy of this, you can read along as we go through this story together. It's really cool. And according to Carson's website, we'll just read it here. Give full credit where credit's due. Released in 1983 by Marvel Books under license from Hasbro. This mighty Marvel storybook. It's about 4 inches by 5 inches. It was $1.50, which was a lot of money in 1983 for, a quote-unquote comic book. Now, the credits include Fenson Bly, fan favorite Herb Trimpe, of course, and Fred Ottenheimer. So likely it was written by Fenson Bly, and Herb did the breakdowns, and then painted by Fred Oppenheimer. It is a painted book on the inside. And the cover is done by the amazing Earl Norem. So you can see all the pages of this, and we're going to read through it, and we're going to have fun with it. So it's great. It's got a fun cover, bright blue cover. It's called The Spy Eye, and it's funny. The image that he has on the main page of the site is missing the Marvel Books logo. I wonder where he pulled that from. That might be like original repro, because he always gets great high-res stuff. However, I'm going to throw this out there, Carson, if you happen to be listening. The picture of the cover of the comic book you got is really dog-eared. So I hope that's someone's personal comic that you love, because I got a real clean copy. I'm very happy with it. Yeah, mostly blue cover, because you have a worm's eye view. The camera is pointing up at the sky, and you see a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It's not one of the regular Joes. Remember, this is 1983, so the only aircraft they would have had was the Sky Striker. They wouldn't have had any, like the Skyhawk, like that wasn't around. So this is that era where there weren't enough vehicles to match all the needs of these stories. So they would invent vehicles. It happened a little bit in the comic books too, but eventually there were enough, toys and vehicles that you were able to find one that fit the bill, for your story. But this beautifully painted cover, you've got 4 Joes that have leapt out of there. Now, Hawk's in the lead. And remember, this is old school Hawk. This is original Hawk. So this is Hawk in his greens with his red trim collar. I like this Hawk. I'm a fan of this Hawk. I was a huge fan of the brown bomber jacket Hawk when I was a kid. And I never had this Hawk until more recently. So I like this Hawk a lot. We've also got Steeler, and he's wearing his rangefinder glasses. It looks good. Flash, Anthony Gambello, he makes the scene. He does have his laser, and it is attached to his backpack, as you can see by the little wire. And then there's a dude that, based on the story, it has to be Ace. But he's in a red ball cap, and he's in, Ace has that astronaut ribbed looking outfit. He has like ribbed looking legs and arms. Like it's like he's got that texture on his uniform, but it's a brown uniform. So he does not, by any stretch of the imagination, look like Ace. But based on the story and what's inside, and it's specifically in the indicia, that has to be Ace. So, again, came out in 83. I'm wondering if this was done before they finished the designs of Ace. Was Earl working on, prototype, so to speak? Because remember, Ace didn't come out till 83. So if this is published that same year, his outfit may not have been finalized. So maybe, it may have been something similar to his actual flight gear, and then they threw a ball cap on him because they didn't want to draw him in a spacesuit helmet. Remember, Ace is one of those fun characters that if you draw him in his outfit, it looks ridiculous, kind of like Wetsuit or Torpedo. Like they run around in their actual gear. They really look silly. So you have to find a kind of a happy medium to make sure that they can operate in the field and not look like they just came out of the cockpit of a space shuttle in this case. But it's great. Yeah, it's great coverage. And you see what you get in this is you get a little bit of a castle in the back. So that, for me, especially at this era where, a lot of the lore hasn't really been established for G.I. Joe and Cobra, right? So what that means is I see a castle like that in the early 80s. It makes me think of like European, mysterious, hammer horror, like Eastern European kind of we're going in to Europe to rescue or to attack or take out somebody. But there's like an air of mystery that's involved in that whenever I see something along that line. So we're gonna find out if that's true. And the VTOL thing, it's a weird looking plane. There's it's actually it's got a little bit of the Conquest X-30 when you look at the wing structure, except the wings are going, the Conquest went inverted. The wings are still going backwards. But it's got a little bit of that, and then it's got 4 turbines on the side, very much like the Shield helicarrier. So I wonder if they took the idea actually from the Shield helicarrier and kind of slapped that onto this, because it doesn't look like any actual, because there were VTOL jets at the time. This is like a VTOL transport shuttle or something. So, but yeah, it's gorgeous. It's Earl Norm, so the artwork's great. The Spy Eye. So this is the first, what would have been the Herb Trimpe and Fred Ottenheimer, not Oppenheimer. He didn't create the bomb. He just drew it. First of their images. And we've got copyright, 83 Hasbro, and it says G.I. Joe, Hawk, Flash, Steeler, Ace, and Cobra are the only trademarks that they're claiming on this. So, it's not Cobra Commander. It's just Cobra, right? And Ace. So that makes me think it's Ace on the cover. But it's a nice, if you squint your eyes, you'll think that it's a G.I. Joe Tomahawk, 2 or 3 years before the Tomahawk, or 3 years, before the Tomahawk actually existed, flying into a sunset. But it's a nice orange sunset, and it's what it is. It's the VTOL thing, kind of flying above the clouds into the sun. But it's a nice little image. Welcome to the airbase, said Hawk. I'm going to read this to you guys like your kids. I'm putting you to bed. How about that? That's fun. Said Hawk, leader of the G.I. Joe team, to the arriving general. Pleased to see you, Colonel, replied General Jones. I'm eager to meet your new team. Flash here is our electronics expert, Hawk said, proudly, and Steeler is our engineering specialist. Ace, he's our top pilot. And if you look at the image, it's there's 3, I guess, probably generals, or, I'm sorry, I don't know the ranks exactly, but there's 3 dudes getting off a plane. There's a dude that looks like he's from the Army in all fatigues. There's a dude in blue, which makes me think he's Air Force. And then there's a dude behind him in like brown and blue, which makes me think he might be like Marines or something. Like they're drawn specifically different, so it makes me think that there's, like for a purpose. Also, like as far as what they're wearing is decidedly different. And then you've got Hawk, you've got Flash saluting, you've got Steeler without his helmet saluting, and then in the back it's probably Ace. It's just not in his spacesuit. The colors on this, I should point out too, are really nice. They're very primary colors. Lots of yellow, lots of orange, lots of light blues. So it's like it's real symbolic, real basic colors. They're not trying to do a lot with color. It's very color by numbers style. You know what I mean? So like it's very much within the lines. They're not really trying to reinvent the color wheel, but they're using very bright poppy colors that look really, really good. So we get an overhead shot of the entire airfield. We see some kind of generic looking planes in the background. Again, no Sky Striker to be seen. They're at the U.S. Air Force headquarters. How did the test go in the new jump jet, Colonel? Asked General Jones. I think you'll be very pleased with what we have to show you this morning, replied Hawk. Hawk continues. Our new jump jet can move in any direction at record-breaking speed. As far as we know, it is the fastest aircraft in the world. Well, does it need a long runway to take off? Asked General Jones. No, replied Hawk. It lifts straight up in the air just like a rocket. Fantastic, said the general. That's exactly what we need. And again, these are aimed for kids, so it's very much straightforward, because what I want Hawk to say is, what part of jump jet did you not hear me say? Why are you asking about a runway? Anyway, So yeah, and it's a nice illustration of Hawk in front of a looks like a projector, because there's a nice shadow being cast over Hawk as well. So you've got a projector showing up throwing up an image of this jump jet, and yeah, it's kind of like we described before. It's kind of a space shuttle bus in the sky with some turbines on it, and then these two giant rocket pods in the back. Really bulky though. That's what's funny, and like there's nothing VTOL with outside of the turbines on the side. There's nothing about this craft that says VTOL. As you can see, our new jump jet uses rocket thrusters. It has two large rocket engines in the rear. Smaller rocket thrusters are on either side to move it sideways. On the top and bottom, similar rocket thrusters move the jump jet up and down. Great, said the general. Let's look at the real thing. Again, kind of want him to go, yeah, I get it. All right, I get it. I get the idea. And it was the drawing was just kind of a isolated shot of what the jump jet looks like. So now we've actually seen the jump jet more than we've seen any G.I. Joes in this whole story. This could be the answer to our problem. How soon can the jump jet be ready for a mission? The general asked Hawk. Well, that would depend on the kind of mission you have in mind, answered Hawk. So they're standing in front, the three colonels or the three military brass people, they're all standing in front of it with Hawk showing them off. And again, it's a glory shot of this really peculiar looking jump jet. It's funny, there's like it's a nice rendering of it. The colors really work well. Some nice mixes of greens and stuff. There's like a weird escape hatch in the front that you feel like would only be drawn if it were based on a toy, but this isn't a toy. So I like that they added that detail to it. If you're looking at the page, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're not looking at the page, you have no excuse. Anyway, we have to rescue the famous scientist, Dr. Goodhart, explained the colonel. The Cobra organization has kidnapped him and is holding him captive on this mountaintop castle called Viper's Nest. As you can see in this photograph, the steep mountain makes the castle impossible to enter. Nothing's impossible with our jump jet, said Hawk. We could easily drop down on the castle from above. They all agreed to give it a try. That's awesome. Or seeing the general hold or someone's holding a photograph of this castle that's not you can't approach it by anywhere but the main road, I guess. And it's very much, think Silent Castle. You know, it doesn't look like it at all, but think that, you know. I love that it's called the Viper's Nest. Therefore, I don't know how it could be a surprise to anyone involved that Cobra was using it for nefarious reasons. Just throwing that out there. It seemed like that should have been a tell everybody. Yeah, and the summary of... Well, also, real quick, it's the Joes rescuing a scientist. Perfect. That's right up the early Joe's alley. So that's par for the course. We're surprised it's not Dr. Burkhardt again. But the sentence, they all agreed to give it a try, maybe the best sentence so far. I'm going to see if there any sentence that tops it. So now we've got a drawing. And this, if you ever were questioning if Herb Trimpe was involved in this, this drawing absolutely nails it. It's a profile shot of Hawk, and the guys are loading up the VTOL with the laser. Was that the Slam? What was the big laser? The Toba laser with their early one. And Trimpe drew what I would call to be very flat faces. He did it in his Hulk stuff. Definitely did it in G.I. Joe when he drew profiles of faces. He very much a flat front, right? It wasn't very rounded. It wasn't very think of like a V shape with the nose busting out. He drew very, very flat faces. That was just his style. And it absolutely is a Trimpe face on Hawk here. So you could just tell that if you're looking for stylistic hints as to who did what, and which chimes in with what is on the website, Carson's website, saying that looks like he just did layouts, because it feels like a Trimpe layout and then someone painted over it. Have you tested that laser gun? Hawk asked Steeler. Yes, sir, asked Steeler. Checks out just fine. Now, I wonder if this is Steeler before or after he got bit by the bug. How are you doing with communications equipment? Hawk asked Flash. Should we do our offensive Italian stereotype? All is set to go, sir. Flash answered quickly. Okay, men, called Hawk. That's it. Let's go. Fire main rocket engine, Steeler, called Hawk. Main rocket is fired, sir. The temperature's reading is normal, Steeler replied. Hey, we're all cleared for takeoff, said Flash. All systems are green and go, Ace reported. Stand by for liftoff, announced Hawk. And it's a fun, very smiling Flash. Very smiling close. Everyone's smiling in this. Again, it's a kid's book, so like everyone's happy. It's a close-up of Flash. He's looking at some display, which we don't see. Steeler's looking at some display. We get the back of Ace. Ace is absolutely not in his flight gear, even though he is piloting the jet. And Hawk's his co-pilot, or as we discussed last week, the Rio. This is a nice, for a storybook, this is a nice 2-page spread. And why that is, I would say, odd may be the wrong word, but why that is a surprise to me is 2-page spreads require a fair amount of planning and, like you need to know exactly what's up. So an easy way out to do any kind of these storybooks would just be to do singular pages and then let the chips fall where they may when they print it, right? Where they're putting the, how the pages are getting laid out, etc. So if you're going to have a nice 2-page spread in any book, you really have to plan for it. So I like that to show the level of effort and craftsmanship and workmanlike ability that they put into this. So you've got this crazy jet, and it really looks like a bus. You know what it looks like? It looks like Lone Star's space wagon from Spaceballs, and I'm not joking. It looks like Lone Star ship. That is exactly what my brain has been trying to think of this whole time. It looks like Lone Star ship. So they're lifting off from a nondescript airfield. Lots of greens in the paint, purple mountain range. So the ship takes up most of the right side, while he uses clouds to cover up the left side, to eat up most of the page on the left side. And then you've got the dialogue filling in the other gaps too. It's a nice layout, and it brings you in the right direction to, from top to bottom, to carry your eyes across the page. Shut down liftoff rockets, called Hawk. Once they were in flight, switch to level flight at maximum speed. Hold on, we're not urgent. The guy could wait. Computer set and locked, reported Steeler. What's our altitude reading? Hawk asked Ace. Steady at 1,000 feet, sir, Ace reported quickly. Very good, replied Hawk. Our estimated time of arrival is 1,500 hours. Bum, bum, bum. Now, at 1,500 hours, fast forward, you've got that crazy ship approaching the castle. There's the castle ahead, Hawk said excitedly. Look at the height of that mountain, gasped Ace. I can see why the general was so keen to use the jump jet. No one could ever get into the castle from below. Just look at those towers, men, said Hawk. They're so close together. A helicopter could never go between them. This whole thing feels like it is an advertisement for this jump jet, which wasn't actually a toy. That's, which is crazy, because they had the jump jetpack that came with Hawk. You could have used the jump jetpacks with this, and you could have been selling the toy. We're not even through the story yet. You absolutely should have changed this to the jump jetpacks. And then every kid who read this would have been like, I need a jump jetpack, instead of, I need a jump jet airplane that doesn't exist. Okay, anyway. So now we've got the one part of the equation that they didn't factor on is that it's not a stealth plane. So as soon as they get over the castle, a bunch of Cobra troopers run out and they start pointing to the sky. Now, if you look closely, the Cobra insignia is drawn a little bit differently. They've got kind of odd gold shields on their forehead, like rank markers or something like that. So the Cobra troopers are drawn a little bit differently. And here we go. What's that unidentified flying object doing up there? Shouted the Cobra guard to his comrade. I like the use of the comrade, making it feel like a 80s Russian. Well, I don't know, he replied. I'll report it to our commander. Hurry up. Get moving, the Cobra Guard screamed. It'll be on top of us in a second. I like to think that they didn't have a radio, so he literally had to run into the castle and find Cobra Commander. We got another nice 2-page spread here. Well, lucky for us, this jump jet can land anywhere, said Hawk. We can land right in the middle of the courtyard, which, according to the image, they're not doing. They're landing. The image has them landing close, but it's outside. It's not in the courtyard by any stretch of the imagination. They are landing right next to the castle, which kind of belies the whole there's no way to get to it, because apparently they have a landing pad that sits right outside the castle. Anyway, so that's on the left-hand side. It's this. It's again another like spotlight profile pic of the jump jet. Will we need the laser gun, sir? Asked Steeler. See, I feel that's a Flash question. You can bet your bottom dollar we will, replied Hawk, quoting Annie. We'll probably have to cut our way into the castle and search for Dr. Goodhart. Well, all guns ready for action, called Steeler. Very good, replied Hawk, but don't fire unless we have to. Yeah, that should have been Flash asking the laser gun. There's no reason for Steeler to be asking that. Come on, people. Where's the editor? So now we got a nice close-up of, well, it's funny. So now there is a close-up of the Cobra Guard. He's on the phone. He's just calling Cobra Commander. You have to run find him. But now, according to this picture, they are landing in the courtyard. Come in, Cobra headquarters. We're being attacked by an enemy airplane, the chief castle guard screamed into the video phone. There's no time to man the guns. Send help immediately. So there's no time to man the guns, but there's time for help to get there. That's insane. Fun picture. It's a guy on a phone in a mask. And the Cobra insignia is a little bit different. So it's not drawn the same way. It's got the same, it's red, and it's got like the black crossbars, the horizontal crossbars to it. But it's got a white outline. And the white outline really forms most of the Cobra. So the red is actually the interior part. So it's a little bit of a different, certainly not as good as the traditional. We've taken them by surprise, shouted Hawk. And now all we have to do is rescue Dr. Goodhart, said Steeler. Hey, look, men, Ace cried suddenly. That looks like Dr. Goodhart in the tower window. That's him, all right, Hawk said excitedly. I recognize him from his pictures in the newspapers. All right, let's visit this page. One, fun drawing. They apparently never landed in the courtyard. They're still hovering, which is, okay, let's use the hover part of the jump jet. That's fun. So they're hovering over it, and then in this window on the castle, the doctor is just hanging out and waving like Rapunzel, waving from the tower. So that's really funny. 2, Hawk recognizes him from his pictures in the newspapers. Was there no dossier briefing on what this doctor looks like? The military didn't have any photos of him. They had to rely on the Chicago Tribune to get a picture of this guy. That seems peculiar to me. Nice double page spread as well. And this time the jump jet, still hovering, is now literally hovering right outside this window that the good doctor was in. And again, it's Steeler yelling. I have the laser gun all set, cried Steeler. Do you want me to break into the castle to rescue him? Well, that won't be necessary, Steeler, replied Hawk. I have a better idea. Let's use the jump jet to hover close to Dr. Goodrich's window. I'll adjust the rocket thruster, sir, said Ace. Be careful, warned Hawk. We don't want to crash into the castle tower. That should go without saying. Like, if I were Ace, I'd be quite insulted by that. This is a team of specialists, and it's like, of course we don't want to crash into the top. Come on. But Ace says, Hawk says, okay, Ace, Hawk ordered. Hold it right there. This is as close as we can get, sir, said Ace. But there's 10 feet between us and the tower window. How are we going to get Dr. Goodhart across that gap? Easy, Ace, replied Hawk. Just operate the gangplank and make a bridge to his window. I think we're going to find out what that weird hatch is on the front of the jet. No, it's not it. Nope. Sideways gangplank. I'm wrong. Again, I'm discovering this as you guys are. Having a bunch of fun here. Nice 2-page spread again. So now the plane is hovering on the outside of the window with this nice, with this big gangplank hanging off the side. So this is like, we've seen this in a million action movies, right? Where the helicopter or the jet or whatever is right outside the window. And it's like every Fast and the Furious movie, jump, Letty. It's only 3 feet to jump, Dr. Goodhart, Hawk called out to the famous scientist. So we've got a 7-foot gangplank. Give it a try. Just give it, it's only, if you fall, you have one shot at this. Give it a try. Not, you can do it. Yeah, give it a try. I'm afraid I can't jump that far, called back Dr. Goodhart. Can you get any closer? I could give it a slight touch on the side thruster, sir, Ace eagerly suggested. Well, all right, Ace, Hawk answered. Go ahead. I think I can make it now, called Dr. Goodhart. Well, don't worry, Doctor. Sorry. Hey, don't worry, Doctor, Flash said. I'm right here to catch you. I won't let you fall. Remember, Anthony Gambello. So Flash is there just to catch a falling doctor. He's not there to use that laser that Steeler was hawking about. They don't show the catch. The next thing you see it is the doctor's inside the plane. He's shaking. Here's that trademark Herb Trimpe kind of flat face going on with Hawk, with Hawk. So it's definitely a Trimpe face. I'm sure glad to see you guys, Dr. Good. My accents are all over the place. I hope you're all enjoying this. Dr. Goodhart said, I'd almost given up hope of ever getting out of your viper's nest alive. We're not out yet, replied Dr. Goodhart, replied Commander Hawk. We'd better get out of here before the Cobra Guards recover. I don't remember them attacking the Cobra Guards, so I don't know what they're recovering from. Again, it's a kid's book, so I get it. Fine with me, Hawk, said Dr. Goodhart. Let's go. Now we get some firing going. This is actually interesting. So they wait this whole time to shoot some weapons. The jet's taken off. There is a Cobra soldier with the most piercing eyes staring at you in this picture. It is awesome. He is looking at the camera like he's looking into your soul. Like he just heard you say how much you loved Raptor. That's what he's looking at you like. They're shooting at the plane as it's rocketing away. Look, Hawk, Ace suddenly shouted. The Cobra Guards are shooting at us. I don't know what they've been doing this whole time. Don't worry, Hawk replied. They're too late. We'll be out of here in a flash. It'll sure be nice to get home and celebrate, said Steeler. You have a guy named Flash on this mission. We'll be out of here in a flash. Then they should have followed up with Flash going, huh? What'd you say? And then Hawk going, never mind. Burr, 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 burr. We can't go home yet, boys, said Dr. Goodhart. Didn't General Jones tell you about the Big Eye satellite? I was inventing it. Okay, he's going to be Triumph the Insult Comic Dog now. Let me change that. Didn't General Jones tell you about the Big Eye satellite? I was inventing it when Cobra kidnapped me and took the Big Eye. Well, where's Big Eye now? Hawk asked anxiously. And again, this is a nice, real highlight spotlight shot of this plane flying through the sky. They were really selling this. I wonder if this was somehow in the works for some toy or something. This is crazy. Unfortunately, Dr. Goodhart replied, it's 1,000 miles away, about to be launched by the Cobra organization to spy on the United States. For me to poop on. Do you know where the Cobra launch base is located? Hawk asked. I know exactly where it is, Dr. Goodhart replied. Have you checked your butt? No, I'm just kidding. That's working blue. But the satellite is due to launch soon, and I doubt we can get there in time to stop them. Well, don't worry, Dr. Goodhart, Hawk said. We'll get Big Eye back. Before long, flying at top speed, they reached the other side of the world. So this plane is not only VTOL, but it also has enough rocket fuel, jet fuel, to traverse the world. Let that sink in, everybody. Hey, look, cried Dr. Goodhart. That's Big Eye down there at the bottom of the volcanic crater. They're going to launch it into space. What do we do now, sir? Asked Ace excitedly. Hang on, men, replied Hawk. I'll think of something. Because Hawk has done literally everything in this mission. Like, no one wants to ask Flash, although I think he comes into play in the next bit. But it's a shot of this volcanic crater, something out of a James Bond movie, and inside's a giant rocket with a big satellite on it, Cobra insignia and all that stuff. 5, 4, 3, called the Cobra Space Control Chief. We have ignition. 2, 1, main engines fired. 0, we have liftoff. And it is it's the Cobra. It's like a close-up of space shuttle rocket booster engines launching. And that's what we get. Lots of billowing clouds and launching spaceships. It's taking off, Hawk, cried Ace. It's heading straight for us. Give me full power on all lift thrusters, ordered Hawk, and match our lift speed with Cobra's rocket. So, according to this image, it literally will pierce the VTOL. But it feels like they're a little bit off to the side. But yeah, it's the rocket cresting the top of the volcanic crater, and the ship, the jump ship in the back. Here we go. Oh wait, that's so funny. There, so they absolutely have. I was not wrong. They've mislabeled this whole thing. Okay, Steeler, says Hawk. This is where you get to use your laser gun. You'll have to hang out of the jump jet on the rescue wire and cut the fastenings that hold Big Eye to Cobra's rocket. You'll have to move fast, Steeler, Hawk warned. At the speed we're going, we'll be in outer space in no time. And the image is Flash holding his laser, getting ready to take it on. So once again, as we discussed on the Yuan Joe talking about Flash, he gets no respect at all. Flash is an awesome character that should have been used more, and even in this story, it was supposed to be Flash this whole time, and they've mislabeled him in the writing. The drawings have him appropriately doing the right work. I really love using this nifty laser gun, Steeler said to himself. Well, to himself, I guess he wouldn't have an accent. But I sure wish Hawk would pick easier places to use it. And he is, it's a fun picture, actually. He's in a little basket, like a carry basket. He's hanging out below the VTOL in this like rescue basket. And he's floating in the air, and he's using his laser gun to shoot the top of the rocket off. But yeah, it's Flash. It's not Steeler. I'm offended. For the Gambello family. Oh, and he caught it. I've got Big Eye, boys, cried Steeler. Haul me up. It's freezing out here. Hang in there, hero. We'll have you safe and sound in a jiffy, called Hawk. You'll get a medal for this one. So they were not only just destroying it, but they were also stealing it. So somehow, some way, Flash / Steeler got his hands on this giant circular, think satellite down kind of a thing. It's a fun drawing though, and it's a good drawing of Flash. Hey! The Cobra Space Control Chief cried angrily. That's the enemy plane that attacked the castle at the Viper's Nest and rescued Dr. Goodhart approximately 20 minutes ago on the other side of the world. How did it get here so fast? Asked his assistant. Beats me, said the chief. But now they've got both Big Eye and Dr. Goodhart back. Our whole spying project is ruined. Cobra Commander isn't going to like this. I'll bet it was Hawk and his G.I. Joe team who did it, the assistant said. They've beaten us again. And this image, first of all, has another one of those piercing eye Cobra soldiers, which is great. Lots of angry raised fists like shaking in the air, and then you have a finger pointing to the sky. It's kind of a fun picture, and they're all in the also they're all in the crater of that volcano, which means they were just there when I'm sure they were behind shielding, but they were in there when all the exhaust gases escaped as the rocket launched from that crater. So they should all be dead. That's it. You get to the back cover, which is actually the same as the front cover. But that's it, man. That's your book. That's The Spy Eye. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope my flash wasn't as offensive as it sounded. And, we'll be here next week, because next week we're going to go over Operation Disappearance by the Usual Gang of Idiots, same style book, and we'll have some fun with that next week. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's a kid's book, so we're just having fun with it. But it really feels like that was something like they were going to have that be a toy. It really feels that way. Like that was at least a drawing board concept kind of a thing. And maybe, it didn't pass muster. I mean, too expensive to make or something like that. Because the amount of time we spent just glamorizing the jump jet is wild, especially when they actually had they actually had the jump jet packs that we could have used instead. Although you can't go around the world in the jump jet pack. I get it. You can't do that. And maybe they hadn't actually gotten the Sky Striker around yet, so we'll see. Anyway, a lot of fun. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks for popping in this week, and we'll see you next week for Operation Disappearance. Now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.